And here's me randomly dropping in my audio. Welcome back to Empowered Esquire TV. As you have heard, our intro has no sound at the moment, but my audio should be fine. So, if everyone could give me a one in the chats to let me know that you are hearing me, we will get started. All righty. Peace to everyone entering the chat. Hello to Queen Brielle, Pretoria Afro, a Jade Stone, Yua Akata. I haven't seen you in a while, Akata. How are you? Um, also another person I haven't seen in a while, Eliezer. Ooh, I almost butchered it, but I got it. Eliezer Yasharala, right? How are you? Hello, Andriana. Ooh, Mia names today. All right, so everyone can hear me. Awesome. Wonderful. All right. So, as you can see from the title of the video, today we are first going to dive into the Carlee Russell case. We'll say the Carlee Russell case, right? And then we are going to revisit the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. And I say revisit because we have discussed that fund before, but there are some new filings, some new SEC filings surrounding the Tulsa Real Estate Fund that have the internet abuzz. So we are going to talk about that because it seems that there may be some trouble over there at TREF. All right. So this will also be a call-in show. I should have put something in the thumbnail, but I really want to start reserving time every show to let you all call in and chit chat with me. And so the plan is to allow call-ins for this show as well. If you are new here, welcome. This is podcast. This show is for the most part podcast style, which means you get audio, right? On an occasion, I will come on camera, but that is an occasion, right? During the pandemic, I was on camera more, with the obvious reasons being that we all really weren't doing much. But nowadays, we are a podcast. And so you really only get me on camera on occasion. Okay. All right. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about Carlee Russell. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to take a look at an article about Carlee Russell, and then we'll have a chat. Okay. So I always announce that I'm sharing my screen. Why? I don't know. I just do. It's my way. Okay, wonderful. So here we are. Let me go ahead and just, okay, perfect. I just want to make sure that you guys can see that. You can. Wonderful. Okay. So we're just using this article as a point of reference and a kind of jumping place from where we will discuss the laws that are applicable in Alabama and what could and could not happen. Okay. If at any point my audio is troubling or you cannot hear me, let me know in the chat and we'll figure it out. Okay. What's up to Rocking with the Truth? I am glad you're in the bushes. Hello, Empress Kaya. I'm glad you're in the building as well. Both OGs, and I'm always glad to have you with me. All right, let's dive in. Carlee Russell tweeted multiple times within 40 minutes of calling 911. So glad that there's no sound on this stupid ad. The Alabama nursing student vanished for 49 hours and told police she was kidnapped, though investigators say they've been unable to verify her claims. Let's stop right there because when I read these articles, we like to stop and interpret and dissect, right? So many people have been speculating about what the police will or won't do. Now, when law enforcement says they are unable to verify claims, what they mean very simply is they have been unable to find other sources that could confirm or corroborate the story they received. So that simply means that Carlee Russell gave them one version of events, but they have not been able to find any evidence that confirms her version of events. That's what that means. Okay. Carlee Russell, the Alabama woman who mysteriously vanished after calling 911 last week, sent 3 tweets within the hour before she disappeared. Okay. That's not necessarily strange, right? If you're a tweeter who tweets a lot and this is before she disappeared, no, not necessarily strange. Russell, 25, went missing for 49 hours after she called 911 to report seeing a toddler walking barefoot along I-495 last Thursday night. The nursing student later told police that after she got out of the car to check on the child, a man came out of the trees and abducted her. Okay, so let's pause there. So, initially, upon hearing this version of events, it seemed that the general public held this version of events to be believable. And then video footage started to come out. Now, I did not know what this stretch of highway looked like, but the video footage that has come out, which, I mean, let's see if we can Google it and watch it together. Carlee Russell video footage, right? Because the thing about it is, the video footage that has come out, and at least that I have seen, it shows a very, very, very busy highway. And so it becomes a bit strange, right? To imagine that no one else saw the child. However, I will say it was nighttime. And so there is the argument that perhaps if there was a child, other people did not see the child because it was dark, right? So let's take a look at the footage. Let me go ahead and share that. So we can see it together. Should be this window. Hold on one second. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Just wanted to make sure that I'm showing you the right window. Yes, this is the window. Okay, perfect. All right. So this is the footage. Is there audio with this? Somewhat. Okay. So this is the stretch of highway, right? You all can see. And as I said, it's pretty busy, right? You see a string of traffic down here towards the end. You see constant cars, constant cars. This is allegedly Carlee's vehicle, right? So it's relatively busy to imagine that there were no other calls about a child walking along, this stretch. However, it's dark. It is dark. And I will tell you something about the South. So the South in particular, when you're talking about Alabama, certain parts of northern Florida, Georgia, right? It can be very country, very rural, and the infrastructure is not as robust as that of the North. So a lot of these major highways in the South do not have adequate lighting, right? So I will say this looks very busy, right? Again, this is Carlee's car here. However, it's also dark. So there's some give or take there, although it looks to be relatively busy. Okay. So Carlee's report to the police is that she saw a child walking along this highway here. She stopped to try to help the child, and she was then abducted. And as I said, this is allegedly her vehicle here. As you can see, there are no other vehicles that are stopping, which means whatever it is that she's reporting she saw, she's the only person that saw that. Again, that's left up to your interpretation, right? Okay. I'll let that video play while I read some more from this article. Okay. Local police say they've been unable to verify her claim about being abducted. Again, we already discussed what unable to verify means. Okay. All right. The first tweet sent out at 8:55 p.m. So these are Carlee's tweets before she got abducted. Again, if you're someone who tweets very often, I don't think it's necessarily out of the ordinary that she was tweeting a lot. So she releases some tweets about wanting someone to tell her that she loves them, wanting a family. Yes, it sounds like she may have been at a place in her life where she really wanted things that she didn't have. And that could speak to her state of mind. There's been a conversation surrounding this entire case about mental health, mental well-being, and whether or not that could have played a role in the things that unfolded. And so, I mean, the tweets sound, like I said, like a woman that really wanted things she did not have. And that could speak to her state of mind at the time. Okay. About 15 minutes later, Russell mysteriously vanished after calling 911 and getting out of her vehicle along the interstate. Okay, so we saw her alleged vehicle pull over in that video, and you're still seeing it now. Okay. A statewide search that lasted 49 hours. So they searched for her across the state for 49 hours until Russell reappeared back at her parents' house around 10:45 p.m. Saturday night on foot. Let's stop for a moment. So we know that this case got a lot of social media attention, right? We know that. However, we're also receiving confirmation here that the search, the manpower put into this search for Carlee was rather robust, if you will. Now, what does that mean from the government's perspective? From the government's perspective, that means they probably may have, right, expended a lot of resources searching for Carlee. And a lot of people are discussing, well, what will happen to Carlee now? Well, common sense would tell you that what happens to Carlee now is in part based upon how much resources the state expended looking for her, right? Because they're going to be more motivated to take potential action if they feel that they received a false report, if they used quite a substantial amount of resources in investigating and looking for her. Now, again, when we talk about her tweets, those things speak to her state of mind, right? And the larger conversation being had surrounding Carlee's disappearance is whether or not she may have had some sort of mental health issue, whether or not she may have had some sort of mental breakdown, right? And these tweets, they again give the impression of a woman who deeply wants things she does not have, but not necessarily the impression of a woman who is not mentally sound, right? Meaning a woman who's having a break with reality. They don't necessarily give that impression. Okay. Let me cancel this. And now I'm going to stop sharing that screen, right? And we'll just go back to our regular video while I finish up this article. Hello to Indigo Forever. Hi, Indigenous Black man. Hi, I am Queen Newton, and hello, Business Talk with Kay. Yes, you finally caught alive. We're glad to have you here. Hey, Shakir, what's up? I like that name, and I think you're new, Shakir, so welcome. All righty. That's a beautiful name, Shakir. I like that. Okay. Getting back into the article. Okay, so after Russell returned to her parents' house on foot, 10:45 p.m., right, which if you're going with the version of events presented by Carlee, to have arrived back at home at her parents' house means that she escaped from her abductors. Okay. So then she arrived at home Saturday night on foot. She then described a harrowing situation to police, telling detectives she was kidnapped by a man and a woman after checking on the child that she said that she saw. Okay. Russell described the man as a white man with orange hair and a bald spot. While she alleged she was blindfolded after being grabbed and could not see the woman. She told police she was never bound or tied because her abductors said they did not want to leave impressions on her wrist. She said the couple transported her in the back of an 18-wheeler to a house where she remained overnight. In the midst of the alleged kidnapping, Russell claimed she escaped once before her captors wrangled her back into the 18-wheeler and later the home, where she says the couple ordered her to disrobe and then took photographs of her. Russell told police the next night she was being transported in a car in Hoover, where she was able to escape and return home on foot, where medics soon arrived to take her to the hospital after briefly speaking with police. During that single interview with police, authorities said Russell gave her account of the alleged abduction and complained of a headache. Detectives also took note of a small wound to her lip and a torn t-shirt, as well as $107 in cash stuffed in her right sock. I'm going to keep reading. There are many questions left to be answered, Hoover Police Chief Nick Durzis said at a press conference on Wednesday. Only Carlee can provide those answers. Okay, so let's stop here. This is a picture of Carlee and her, I don't know, boyfriend, ex-boyfriend. I can't keep up with that. Okay. Let's have a moment. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. I didn't realize the graphics had stopped rolling. Let's have a moment here. So we saw the footage of what the highway looked like, right? And I want to be, as you all know, neutral here, because truthfully, just as the police chief said, only Carlee knows what happened, right? Okay. We saw the footage of the highway. It doesn't appear that another vehicle was close to Carlee's vehicle, and you can't see other people. However, it is dark. Now, when she returns home, she has a minor injury, as we heard, the alleged cut on the lip, and she does have torn clothing. However, she has cash on her. Now, very often abductors will take things like money, phone, right? To prevent the quote unquote victim or kidnappee from being able to escape, right? Because if you have money, you can get a cab, you can get on a bus, you can, et cetera, et cetera. So her still having cash on her is a bit strange, but she did have injuries. So there's that, which is why I said with this case, there's a lot of questions, just as the police chief said. All right, so I'm in the chat because, I love to say hello to everyone. Hello to LaMarcus. Hello, Southern Nappiness. What's up, Chief X? Who else is here? Hello, Keisha Castles. Okay, so Andriana said, when she showed up at home, I thought she had a mental episode. Now, Andriana is going back to the point that, a lot of people have been discussing whether mental health issues were at play in this case. That is always possible, right? But her tweets right before she was taken seemed to sound very, for lack of a better word, cognizant, right? For lack of a better word, we'll say cognizant. Yes, the tweet sounded like the mindset or the state of mind of a woman who wasn't happy, but they did not sound like someone having a break with reality, in my humble opinion. All right. What's up, Teddy Wilson? How's it going? What's up, Naps? How are you? Nap said no mental health. Well, hey, listen, as I said, that's always possible. However, the tweets before, let's put it this way, right? Let's put on our advocacy hats. If an attorney for Carlee is going to argue mental health, those tweets are hurtful, because those tweets don't seem like, again, like someone who isn't cognizant. Those tweets don't seem like someone who's out of touch with reality. Those tweets seem like a person who's just unhappy. All right, let's get back into this article. So subsequently, investigators began retracing Russell's steps through security footage and cell phone data. Investigators also began looking into Russell's internet activity. Uh-oh. All right. All right. Discovering a handful of searches Durza says are very relevant to her disappearance. So again, let's put on our investigator hat first. If you were investigating a disappearance, your first trail would be what? The video that was taken, right? And so in the video, upon seeing vehicles that could potentially be the abductor, persons that could potentially be the abductor, the next step law enforcement would take, right, would be to look into that. So what we are hearing now is that when law enforcement, allegedly, when law enforcement looked at the video, they did not see people or vehicles which they could identify and track down as potential suspects. So then they turned from that and they started to look at, well, what had Carlee been up to in the time leading up to the abduction? This is how we get to what she was doing on the internet. All right, let's move forward. So they started looking at her internet activity. Okay. On the day of and in the days leading up to her disappearance, Russell researched Amber Alerts, looked up how to steal money from a cash register, looked into purchasing a one-way bus ticket scheduled to depart the day she went missing. and also looked up the movie Taken, which is about a kidnapping. Okay, so I'm going to be fair here. Looking up the movie Taken, I don't think that's weird. It's a good movie. She looked up a movie. Okay. I personally don't think that's weird. Now, what sounds odd is the researching Amber Alerts, right? I've never had any interest in looking up how an Amber Alert works. So I don't know. That one to me is a bit odd. Okay. And of course, the looking up how to steal money from a cash register is also odd. Okay. Now, here's why. Okay. Let's put on our, again, advocacy hat. If you are Carlee's attorney and you are trying to, explain her actions and her internet searches, Taken, you simply explain that away. It's a very popular movie, right? But when we get into the Amber Alerts, that hurts. That hurts the argument that she was abducted, because it's too much of a coincidence to look up how Amber Alerts work and then the very next day you're taken, you're missing, right? That's a stretch. And then when we get into looking up how to steal money from a cash register, hypothetically, if someone were to go missing voluntarily, they would want to refrain from using credit cards, debit cards, things that could be tracked, right? So they would want to use cash. Now, this person would not want to go and take cash out of their bank account, right? Hello? Because that's obvious. So this person would want to get cash from somewhere that isn't necessarily connected to them. Now, here's what I'll add to that on the flip side, right? It's not the smartest thing to steal cash from work. And Carlee, by all explanation, seems to be a pretty intelligent young woman, right? I mean, she is educated. I believe she was in nursing school, or at least had aspirations to be a nurse. And we know that she had probably graduated college from what we see online. So to play devil's advocate to that, it wouldn't be the most intelligent person that would think they should steal money from work, right? But it still does not look very coincidental, and it doesn't look beneficial from Carlee's perspective, or anyone trying to advocate for Carlee to, identify some of these internet searches. Okay. All right. Hello to Yehosef Ben Israel. How's it going? How are you, King? And hello to Time the Kitchen. All right. Let's hop back into the article, shall we? On the day of and in the days leading up to her disappearance. Oh, I already read that. I do think it's highly unusual that the day someone gets kidnapped, 7 or 8 hours before, they were searching the movie Taken about an abduction. I find that very strange, says Durzis. Cell phone data also showed that Russell traveled about 600 yards while on the phone with 911, telling a dispatcher that she was following the toddler she claimed she saw as he walked along the highway. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, Durzis said. To think that a toddler barefoot that could be 3 or 4 years old could travel 6 football fields without getting in the roadway, without crying, without anything, just moving down, it's just very hard for me to understand. Pause. I want to say that, in my opinion, Chief Durzis has been very professional. He has not gone out of his way to label Carlee. He has not gone out of his way to call Carlee questionable, to say that she's not telling the truth, anything of that nature. He's been very professional, right? And what he has just said is very truthful. Could this happen? The story that Carlee described, could it happen? Yes, it could have happened. But as I always tell you, anything is possible, right? It could have happened. But when you think about some of the details surrounding the version of events that Carlee Russell has provided, it doesn't sound extremely likely, in my opinion, right? And that is what I'm gleaning from what Chief Durzis is saying, because he's saying it's very hard for him to understand how this could have happened. Okay. So Russell's family members say that they believe Russell. They have said that she was fighting for her life for 48 hours and she was not physically or mentally stable enough to give updates or whereabouts upon her return home, which a lot of people were upset about that. But to me, it sounds plausible. If you were being held for 48 hours, you were kidnapped, who knows what happened to you? And so, yeah, I would imagine that upon returning home, mentally, you wouldn't really be in the place to just start talking to everyone and talking to the press. And yeah, I can imagine that she wouldn't necessarily be in the best mental state. Okay. Russell's mother, Talitha, did an interview in which she said that her daughter fought for her life. Okay. So that's that. That's all we're going to discuss on the article. Now, let's have the larger conversation. So, the larger conversation is, did Carlee Russell fabricate this story about being abducted? Was she not actually abducted? Now, again, a lot of people have been talking about mental health surrounding this story, saying that if Carlee fabricated, perhaps she had a mental break and it wasn't a cognizant kind of fabrication. And to that, I will say one final time, her internet searches really hurt that theory. The theory that she had some mental break is really, really, really challenged by the internet searches, because the internet searches and the tweets, they point to a woman who was unhappy, but not a woman who was having a break with reality. Okay. So now let's say the authorities decide that Carlee fabricated this story. What could happen to Carlee? Well, let's talk about that. So there are two main typical statutes that are really on the books in almost every state that could apply to this situation. Those two statutes are filing a false police report, right, or making a false statement to the police, and obstruction of justice. Now, the filing of a false police report, again, differs from state to state, but it's pretty much on the books in every state. The same with obstruction of justice, though, again, it differs from state to state. In some states, obstruction of justice has to be specifically linked to an ongoing case in which charges have been filed. But in some jurisdictions, obstruction of justice could simply mean that you gave false information during an investigation, right? So it depends on the jurisdiction. Now, with that being said, Carlee Russell is in Alabama. From what I have seen, the main statute that would apply in Alabama is actually a statute that really just pertains to giving false information to the police, or filing a false police report, if you will. And that would apply to, first, the 911 call, and then second, the conversation that was had with police thereafter. Okay. So let me now pull up the actual law. Let's use Justia, because we are going to look at the law in Alabama. Now, if you are a newbie, you may not know how we do things around here. So allow me. My channel is all about teaching. It's all about empowering you with legal knowledge that you can then use, apply in your everyday life, in your coffee conversations, in your water cooler chats, however. But I'm very big on showing you how to find the law yourself. I am not on here pretending that lawyers are the only people that know where to find the law and that we are the only people that know how to read laws. I like to empower you and show you where you can find laws, how to read those laws so that you can read them and understand them on your own. Okay. All righty. Hello to Pizza. How are you? All righty. So let me share my screen. We're going to use Justia today. Usually we use the, I can't even remember the name of it now. Wow. We use Cornell's Law Dictionary usually, but today I'm showing you a new tool called Justia. Okay. Oh, thank you, Peta. Peta is so sweet. Peta said, I love this channel. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go to sharing my screen. I'm in a singy mood today, so pardon me if I sing a little. Okay, so this is Justia. I'm going to also copy this link and put it in the chat. All right. So Justia has laws from all over the country. It's one of those websites you can go to. You can type in the state or type in the law and bloop, it'll pop right up. Okay. And it is a trustworthy site. Okay. So this is Justia. This is the law that could apply if the police and the applicable prosecuting entity in Alabama decide to charge Carlee Russell. Okay. This is Title 13A in the Criminal Code of Alabama, Chapter 10, Offenses Against Public Administration. Section 13A 109, False Reporting to Law Enforcement Authorities. This is how you would cite the law if you were, writing some official documentation. This is a universal citation. So if you were, writing a letter to someone that is in official capacity, you would cite whatever portion of the law you were citing, and then you would put this citation at the end of your quote to represent where you got the information from. Okay. That's a bit high level, but hey, you never know. Maybe some of you guys are in law school here. Okay. Which, if you're in law school, you probably need to do long cites and not short cites like this. That's another conversation. Okay. So here we go. False reporting to law enforcement authorities. A person commits the crime of false reporting to law enforcement authorities if he or she knowingly makes a false report or causes the transmission of a false report to law enforcement authorities of a crime or relating to a crime. So let's break that apart. So first, we have mens rea here. Knowingly. Okay. So let me give you because I just realized that I'm giving you legalese. Okay. So let's talk about what mens rea is. Okay. So mens rea is intent. Mens rea is your state of mind. And it's a part of almost every criminal law, right? Every criminal law has some level of kind of knowledge that you have to have, unless it is a strict liability law. And there are some laws like that. And that is what? Some of your SO laws. Remember, we talked about that when we talked about polite, right? It doesn't even matter if polite alleges that he didn't know she was whatever age, right? Okay. Alrighty. So mens rea, it is intent, it is state of mind. So here, knowingly makes a false report. So the first step is Carlee would have to know. She would have to know that she is telling law enforcement something that is false. She would have to know that she is lying to them. This is where the argument about her state of mind comes in. Because if she was in a diminished state of mind, if she was having some mental break, some break with reality, then she did not knowingly give them false information. All right. I'm seeing some things in the chat. Yua Akata says, thank you so much for giving us accurate info. Always, always. You guys know it's quality over quantity over here, right? So I'm here when I can be. And it's more so important to me that we build a community of people who want to learn together, right? An edifying community, than that we build like 50 million thousand people, right? It's more so important to me the quality of person that we cultivate here. Jade Stone says, does she need to seek legal counsel and be quiet? I mean, well, it sounds like she may already have legal counsel. I mean, that's the allegation. All right. Okay, so knowingly. All right. So the first step is she has to know that she was telling law enforcement something that is not true. She has to know. Okay. So they can either make a false report or they can cause the transmission of a false report. So what does that mean? That means this law doesn't require that Carlee went down to the police station and filed a police report. It doesn't require that, because when she picked up the phone and she called 911, from there, an incident report had to be generated, right? That had to be turned into a report that police acted on. So that means this law can reach out and extend to 911 calls and other conversations with law enforcement. It does not only apply to someone who walks into the police station and makes a report. All right. And then it says false report to law enforcement authorities of a crime or relating to a crime. Okay. So first you have Carlee reporting the child, which would be, uh, child endangerment, child neglect, some other different general crimes, right? And then you have the later conversation that Carlee had with the police in regards to saying that she was abducted, right? And then you have kidnapping and false imprisonment and other things like that. And potentially violence because she was injured, right? Potentially assault and other things of that nature. So, in other words, if what Carlee has communicated is not true, then Section A of this law could apply. Okay. And then we see that in Alabama, false reporting to law enforcement authorities is a Class A misdemeanor. I believe the penalty for that, I looked it up in Alabama, is like up to a $6,000 fine, and it's up to how many days in jail? 6 months in jail, I think. Let me confirm that. Class A, because as you know, I'm not from Alabama. Class A misdemeanor, Alabama. Da, 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 da. Yeah. Okay. I believe it's up to 6 months. Okay. Don't quote me on that, but we'll say up to 6 months. Typical for misdemeanors, though, is up to a year. So, hey, okay, 6 months to a year. We'll go with that. All right. So, that's what I've got for you on Carlee Russell. And we're going to leave it there because we want to let this unfold some more. Okay. So I think for now, we're going to leave it there. And what I'd like to do is instead of just hopping right into Jay Morrison, I'd like to open up the stage now. Open up the stage. Open up the live now for folks to come on backstage, come onto the panel and talk about Carlee Russell. Then we'll break and then we'll go into Jay Morrison. All right. So let me get the link. Da, 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 da. All right. And while I am waiting for some of you all to come backstage and chit chat, okay? And you can also put your thoughts in the chat as well, okay? So while I'm waiting on you all to come backstage and chit chat, let's talk about the rules of being on the panel here at EETV, or we should say Empowered Esquire podcast. So first, no profanity. As you've noticed, I don't use profanity. If you do that at your house, at your mama's house, on your channel, that's your business. We don't do that here. Okay. We also don't yell at each other. It's just not needed. We don't need to, it's not needed. Okay. And no negativity towards each other, right? We can disagree in a respectful manner. It's totally possible. Okay. So the link is in the chat. Come on backstage and talk to me. All right. So Rockin' with the Truth has a comment. So Rockin' with the Truth says she should pay a fine and spend some time in jail. I'm disappointed. Well, we'll see. We'll see what comes out. All right. As I always say, don't be so quick to pick a side. Okay. All right. I see some people in the chat talking about the quote unquote Brother Polite case, which, I mean, we've already, discussed that at length. There's really nothing happening there until September. So we wait. Rocking with the Truth says positive vibes over here. That's right. That's right. So the link is in the chat and the stream is open. I think I'll give you all another minute or so, right? While we go through some of these comments. And if no one comes backstage, we'll just jump into Jay Morrison. Andriana Thornton says the only way to explain the Amber Alert search is if she did that after she saw the toddler, which, you know what? That is an interesting point. However, the allegation here is that she searched Amber Alert before her abduction, before she saw this toddler, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, it doesn't help her. It doesn't help her at all. Southern Nappiness says, I was definitely rooting for her to return home safely. Weren't we all? We were all so worried. We were all hoping that she would get home safely. And, I do have to say that I am grateful and I am thankful that she's home safely. I really am. Now, what becomes of this situation thereafter, again, we don't know. But I really am grateful that she made it home safe. Hello, Kel's Tears. All right, listen. So nobody came backstage, surprisingly. So I'm gonna move on to Jay Morrison. Hello, Mara Charisse. Long time no see. Working on your website. Well, you go, girl. Everybody, Mara Charisse has an amazing silk should I say silk lingerie line or we'll go with silkwear, right? So when she's finished with her website, I'm sure she'll let us know. You guys should check her out. That's what I need to do before we move on. Okay, so before I move on, I'm gonna do the content creator shout out, and then we're gonna jump into Jay Morrison because I guess none of y'all want to come backstage to talk about Carlee Russell, which I'm surprised because you all have a lot of thoughts and opinions about her. Okay, so content creator shout out. If I miss you, let me know. All right. Let's see here. Chief X. All right. Everyone, Chief X is a content creator. He has a channel here. He does a lot of teaching as well. He's very much a teacher. Refers to himself as the God Best reincarnated. So he does a lot of teaching and talking about things that affect women and children. So yeah, check out his page. All right. Let's see who else here that is a content creator. Again, if I miss you, please just let me know. Business Talk with Kay. Kay has a podcast where he discusses entrepreneurship, starting your own business, how to bring in business funding. And he interviews a lot of really awesome folks that can give you tidbits on entrepreneurship. So check him out. All right. Scrolling through, doing the content creator roundup. I feel like I need a song. Wasn't Nappy Yankee in here? How come I don't see him anymore? There we go. All right. Naps TV. Okay. The artist formerly known as Nappy Yankee is now Naps TV. So go check him out. He does a lot of social commentary. Okay. All right, so now I'm back in the comments. I see Divine Isis. Hello, Divine Isis. You seem new. Welcome. Oh, Mac's at it, y'all. Mac apparently doesn't like this Carlee Russell case either. Hey, Mac, come here. Okay. So Divine Isis says, what makes her case different than the other people that got a felony for false reporting? Well, from what we're hearing, we need more information to know exactly what would make her case, quote unquote, different, right? But let me be mindful about how I say this. There have been other women with kind of similar stories alleging that they were kidnapped and they weren't, right? And those women have been convicted, some with misdemeanors, some with felonies. So it has happened before, and we will leave it at that. Okay. All righty. So we're going to move on to Jay Morrison now. So you guys, I went back and forth, you guys. Y'all, I'm better off saying y'all. I went back and forth with exactly how to introduce this Jay Morrison Tulsa real estate fund situation, right? I have the actual SEC filings, and I kind of want to discuss that. But I don't just want to dive straight into that without context. You know, we need some context before just diving into SEC documents. It's just a bit much to just go straight there, right? So there are quite a few people that discussed this whole Tulsa real estate fund thing. Let's see. I wonder, Kay, if you're still here, let us know. Did you discuss it? Let me see. Because if he discussed it, we know we got somebody we can go to for a bit of context. If not, I think Pocket Watching with JT definitely covered it, so we can go to him. Let's see. It doesn't look like Kay discussed that. Let me see. Is Kay still in the chat? No? Okay. Alrighty. So we are going to go ahead and go over to Pocket Watching with JT because I am almost certain he discussed it. All right. Because we want some context. Like I said, before we jump into SEC documents, we need some context. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. Oh, hold on. I realize now that I just jump into sharing screens and I don't check to make sure that everything around the screen is okay. Okay, looks to be fine. All righty. Let's do this. Share tab audio because I want you to hear. Okay, let's go into it. So, of course, all credit to Pocket Watching with JT. I am actually going to copy and paste now the link to the original video that we're going to just kind of glean, but we're using this video for context before we look at SEC docs. Okay. And this is not the first time we have discussed Tulsa Real Estate Fund. Okay. Many, many moons ago, which we will revisit that as well. We had a conversation about Tulsa Real Estate Fund, I think about 2 years ago, right? And we talked about the plausibility of TREF as an investment. We talked about whether or not TREF showed viability. And it's interesting that we had that conversation and now look at where we are today. Okay, here we go.
But instead of using my pettiness, you're going to allow Jay Morrison to describe
there we go.
what the Tulsa Real Estate Fund is.
Okay, so we don't need that. We know what it is. We need to fast forward to what's going on now. Oh, wait, he goes straight into the docs. We want some more context. Hold on.
July 20th, 2016. That is when the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, originally Tulsa Management Group, LLC, that's when it was started. Now, the funny thing about this date, July the 20th, 2016, that's when they started this fund. Now, here's my issue with that. On August the 28th, 2016, look at this. Tulsa Group started July 20th, 2016. All right. About 1 month later, August the 29th, 2016, Jermaine D. Morrison files for personal bankruptcy.
Well, that's not good. But again, that's not what we need. Oh, I didn't even know he had a guest on here. Oh, interesting. We need to get into what is happening now, but we want the context of what is happening now.
I'm not buying into that narrative. Cliche black man's journey. No, sir. Not me. Not this fella. That whole story, I do not identify one bit. Nobody in my clique, not my friends I went to college with, not my business associates, no one. We do not associate with what he's referring to as a cliche black man story. Absolutely not. No, sorry.
Going on that, JT, because see, again, that's my point, is that we as black men and black women, we have to raise the bar. Even if you're not where you want to be, you have to be excelling and aspiring to something higher. You have to be subscribing to something higher. I'm not coming on here to listen to a person tell me how much of a loser they are, right? I want to support things that are actually going to speak life and show me rehabilitation. This is not a rehabilitated man. Because now that he ran that play well, the fun play, because he's going to bleed the fun dry, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Right. He's going to bleed the fun dry. And you can already see him repositioning for the next play. And that's the black church spirituality, which we're going to hear in here. You can already see the next grift already a mile away. Now listen to this.
He gave me that testimony so I could minister and reach so many people on a real level. So like even going through a social media slander or whatever the case is, God just said to me simply, if you can't handle social media, you can't handle nations. That's real. Oh, I thought about you when I was looking at that stuff.
Now, another slow motherfucker. This is another slow. Another. Listen to how you talk. Where it comes from. Jay Morrison doesn't talk about ROIs. Doesn't talk about how he's going to get the fund to be profitable. How he's going to get the fund out of the red. You don't hear anything about macroeconomics, economic events, right? New zip codes that they're going to go into. right? New ways of creative financing. Nothing he talks about is detailed about real estate, which goes to show you that he's not an expert in real estate, because people who are serious about the business of investing is going to be breaking down investing, which is why I said to you time and time again, I said this to people all the time to get mad at me. That's not financial literacy. Isn't you tuning into a podcast and they tell you what to buy and what to do. Financial literacy is empowering you with information so you can find your own investments.
So we're going to stop that there, because that is why I'm always saying on this channel, the goal is to empower you. The goal is to give you the information you need to do things, find things, understand things yourself. That's the goal. And I would say to you, that goes far beyond just looking for investment advice. Any professional that you are seeking to be involved with or take advice from should be in the role of wanting to empower you with information. Okay. All righty. So I wanted some more context from that. We got some of it, but we're going to go back to my original video in which I covered Jay Morrison and use that to kind of wrap this up so that we can get into the current SEC filings. All right. Okay, let's see what's going on in the chat. Southern Nabbiness says the fund, Tulsa Real Estate Fund, has nothing to do with the Tulsa, Oklahoma tragedy. I know a woman in finance. She questioned Jay Morrison thoroughly about TREF. He admitted that he was just using the name only. Well, at least he was forthcoming. Okay. Let's go into it. So this is our very own video on the Jay Morrison Fund. As I predicted, I think this was like 2 years ago, right? So this is going to be context for us, if you will. All right. You guys, that just means they can decide if they will offer additional shares, if they will offer additional interest. That's it. That's all that means. So that's not some grandiose right to do anything. It's just the right to allow more people to invest. Now here's the second one. Removal for cause. Okay. So what we are looking at here is the original documents that created what is now known as the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. They have a bunch of different things they had to file with the SEC, including what? A summary of their operating agreement. So the operating agreement that all members are given access to had to be filed with the SEC. Let's dive in now and see what the operating agreement says. So here we are. Now we're in the operating agreement of the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. So if you're unfamiliar with an operating agreement is an outline of what will and should and could occur in the operation of any type of corporation or fund or investment. It is considered to be an outline of the rights of the investors, but it is also a warning to the investors, right? Because any risk that you could incur while you're investing is supposed to be disclosed in the operating agreement. The operating agreement will also, let me also point that out. Before you enter, and again, this is a pocket watching with JT. This is pocket watching with JT's realm of expertise, right? But before you enter any type of investment, you are supposed to be advised of what the risks are. And that is, of course, if you're investing with some type of professional, right? If you're just playing around on some app by yourself, it is what it is. But if you are investing with a professional, they are supposed to advise you of what the risks are. So tell you how much the members are getting paid, right? So if there's a manager like Jay Morrison, the operating agreement should tell you how much that manager receives. The operating agreement should also tell you how much money the fund intends to generate and how much expenses the fund intends to have. I'm telling you all these things as background because as we review this operating agreement, you're going to notice that this agreement does not accurately outline a lot of things about the Tulsa Real Estate Fund that some people might have assumed, right? But you will also see that it outlines a lot of risk that if people were to actually review the operating agreement, they probably would not want to incur, right? So allegedly, this operating agreement has some portions that could be better explained. And that is something I also want to point out. As you're going to hear, if you decide to watch this full video, right? The initial operating agreement for TREF does disclose some concerning things. And so if people who are becoming quote unquote members or investing in TREF would have read this agreement, then they would be advised of some already concerning things. So am I saying that the things that happened should have happened or that the things that are happening should have happened? Not necessarily. But I am saying that some research needed to occur prior to some of the quote unquote investments that were made here. Explained. However, it does clearly outline the risks that are being taken. And that means that either some of the members who are now insinuating they feel defrauded, that they either did not read this operating agreement or that they did not understand this operating agreement. So let's dive in. So it says here, this is a summary of our operating agreement. We have attached as an exhibit the full agreement, and it dives right into profits and losses. So here is the best part. They start out by saying all losses should be allocated in accordance to each member's respective percentage interest in the company. That's par the course, right? It's usual for your interest to equate and your profits to equate to how much you put in as well as your losses, right? That's par the course. They then go on to say that profits will first be allocated pro rata to the members in accordance with the amount of losses previously allocated. Again, just advising you that your interest determines how much your profit is and how much your loss is. Also normal. Now, here is where things get interesting. The very last sentence in this section says, thereafter, profits shall be allocated in accordance with actual distributions of preferred returns. And then profits shall be allocated 50% to the members and 50% to the manager. Pause. Giving a manager 50% of your profits is nowhere near a market norm. So what you will often hear. So we're going to stop that there, right? I'm going to put the link to this video in the chat if you want to go back and get even more context about the origin of the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, okay? But I just wanted to give you the initial context of how this fund began. And again, if members read these documents, a lot of the things that people are now crying about, I mean, it's either they didn't read it or they did not understand it. Those are the options. Either they did not read it or they did not understand it. And if they disclose these things and then you agree to these things, well, now how do you argue that you've been scammed? Again, either they did not read it or they did not understand it. And mind you, I am not at all defending anyone. I'm not at all saying that anything that's been done is fair or is ethical, right? I'm not making any official opinion or comment on any of that. Just pointing out something about these documents. Okay. Alrighty, so now I'm going to stop that screen share because we're going to now talk about what everyone has been talking about, which is the SEC documents that were recently filed by the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. I believe these were filed in June, and it's kind of making the rounds now, and everyone is discussing that the fund does not look to be viable, right? As quite frankly, it did not from the beginning. Okay, all righty. Going to share my screen. Alrighty, so here we are. So this is the actual, so by the way, when a quote unquote public company, right, files their financial documents with the SEC, it is public record. And so you can come onto the actual SEC's website and database and you can find that information. Okay. Alrighty, so let's see. We see some things from June of 2023 here. So as you can see, there's some filings here that are all pretty old. So we're going to go into this most recent filing here. All right, let's click this PDF. All right, we're going to switch over to this tab. Okay. So this is Form 1K. Now, in order to be publicly held, I can't even use my words today, a corporation or organization that the public can quote unquote trade and buy into, you have to file certain forms with the SEC, right? That is how you become quote unquote public. That is how you become an organization / corporation that is a public entity that can actually have exchange of your stock, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so this is Form 1K, which is one of those forms that is in accordance with the SEC. Okay. Tulsa Real Estate Fund information. Okay, here we go. So this is Form 1K, annual report pursuant to Regulation A of the Securities Act of 1933. Okay, so again, like I said, there are certain forms they have to file to remain a quote unquote public corporation, organization, whatever word you'd like to use. Okay. All right, so they got some table of contents here, overview, their corporate structure and history. We don't really need that. They have something here about the manager. Well, let's click that. The manager, our amended and restated company agreement dated May 2018, as amended from time to time, designates Tulsa Founders LLC as our sole manager. The manager. Okay. As we've already gone down the rabbit hole before, we cannot connect anyone to this situation here other than Jay Morrison. It all ends up sounding like Jay Morrison is the manager. Okay. Let's go back. I thought that might have been telling us something a bit different. Investment strategy, investment process, blah, blah, blah. Competition, competitive strength, employees, government regulation, legal proceedings, risk factors, blah, blah, blah. Management's discussion and analysis of financial condition and results of operations. Let's go here. Okay, so they give a overview. Okay, fine. The Tulsa Real Estate Fund is the first Black-owned Regulation A+ Tier 2 impact fund qualified by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Again, if you want a detailed conversation about what all these things mean, watch my original video. I'm not diving into SEC language and what Regulation A+ is and what Tier 2 impact. We're not doing that. Go back to the original video where I do all of that already. All right. TREF consists of 14,000 plus individuals, families, and small businesses, and is headquartered at the Legacy Center in East Point, Georgia. It is purpose-built, it is mission-driven, and is an impact fund with a double bottom line of serving our community through group economics and providing equity ownership. That's interesting. While producing a reasonable rate of return on capital contributions. All of this is fluff. I mean, more specifically, the fund is designed to achieve the following: democratize real estate as an asset class, be a leading source of capital. I mean, listen, you guys, we're getting close to my bedtime, so you're going to start getting more personality. I should have gave you the disclaimer. If you don't like my personality, you think that lawyers aren't deserving of having a life, having personalities, having fun, you think that YouTube is a courtroom, this would be the time for you to leave the live. Okay. Democratize real estate as an asset class. Oh, goodness. Okay. I'm just going to move on. I can't. Again, this is all fluff. So let's get into it here. Dividend. In January 2021, we declared, y'all, my bedtime. We declared a discretionary dividend of $1.76 per membership interest. totaling a payout of $388,000, $172,000 to all members of record on February 1st, 2021. This dividend payout was made in February 2021. You guys go back to the original video we did, because remember, membership interest. It is very interestingly scaled in the operating documents of TREF. Okay. And don't quote me on this, which is why I said go back to my original video, but I believe it's like $500 per, chunk of interest. So in other words, there was a return of about $1.76 per $500 invested. Anyway, go back to the original video. Okay. Now the Legacy Center. The Legacy Center is 100% owned by TREF. All revenues produced by the TREF Legacy Center flow to the fund's top line. If the Legacy Center does well, TREF benefits. Again, this does not even read like it was professionally prepared for SEC filing. It reads like propaganda, in my humble opinion. All right. Then they go into some gobbledygook about the Legacy Center campus. Again, what does this have to? Let me remind you what this section is supposed to be. This section is supposed to be management's discussion and analysis of financial condition and results of operations. Why are we reading gobbledygook about the Legacy Center and how cool it is and it lights up at night and blah, blah, blah? Listen, we're getting too close to my bedtime for me to be nice about this. This doesn't make any sense. All right. Hey, Tristan Townsend, how are you? I think you're a newbie. Welcome. All right. Naps TV says, when TREF started the town. Yeah, I was right. The town 2012 called Toomsboro, Georgia was for sale. Jay said he tried to buy, except the mayor confirmed the town wasn't for sale, just a few properties. Another lie for Swaggy. Huh. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like another gentleman. I want y'all to let me know if you know who I'm talking about. That sounds like another gentleman who he like toured a whole campus. He did a whole video like, we gonna buy this campus, brothers and sisters. You gotta send me your donations. And then it turns out that he didn't even really attempt to buy. He didn't even make a serious offer, allegedly. Sounds very interesting. Southern Nappiness said most fund managers earn 15% to 20%. Listen, 50% is ridiculous. Yuakata said, most of us love your personality, Sister Pearson. Really positive and helpful. Thank you, Yuakata. I appreciate that. Unfortunately, we live in a world where sometimes you got to let people know, so sometimes I let people know. Let's see. Tyrus Thomas says, oh, I see an answer in the chat already for my question. Tyrus Thomas says, do you think TREF being investigated by the SEC and them finding no wrongdoing gives Jay more credibility? I mean, as I said earlier, if they disclose the risk and quote unquote members or investors enter into the fund anyway, then it would make sense for the SEC to say there was no wrongdoing. That makes total sense because the SEC is in fact saying these things were disclosed. You assumed and accepted these risks. So it all goes back to the quote unquote members or investors and whether they either did not read these documents or did not understand these documents. And I'm sure if there was an investigation and it was said there was no wrongdoing, I'm sure that stems from disclosure because in their operating docs, they disclose some pretty concerning things and people still entered into the fund. Nap says, that sounds like a few gentlemen. No, you ain't hitting on it. Adriana got it. Umi, I like this name. I like it. Sounds like Umi. Touring a whole campus, doing a whole promo video, and wow, I'm telling you, Divine Isis said the 50 lashes, man. I like that, but man, Umi, I'm rolling with Umi. I really like Umi. That sounds cool. All right, let's get back into it. My goodness. More gobbledygook about the Legacy Center. What? The Legacy Center is an ideal destination for events, corporate meetings, and weddings. Again, this is supposed to be disclosure of the financial condition of the fund. We don't need all this gobbledygook. We already addressed this in the operating documents, the intro, the structure, and all these other docs. What is the anyway? Phase 2, you guys, I'm gonna try so hard to summon up my patient self. Phase 2 development of the TREF Legacy Center. Phase 2 updates are near completion with a goal for completion by approximately the third quarter of 2023 and will bring online 20,000 square feet of temperature controlled space under one roof. This is not financial condition. The only thing we've heard is that they gave people back $1.70 per quote unquote member interest / share. What? No. Repayment of loans. Okay. All right. Maybe we're getting into it now. On January 7, 2021, we received a payment of $572,000. You guys, I'm getting fatigue from how ridiculous this is. Let me try to be patient. On January 7, 2021, we received a repayment of $570,292 on a related party loan for 2 Parsons Street properties. Such repayment amount included a final draw that was not yet paid and owed to the borrower in the amount of $10,835. The company was also owed an exit fee of $23,325. Due to the hardships in the housing industry and on the parties resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic, the parties agreed to mutually forgive the final draw amount and exit the fee. I couldn't even get through that. I could not even get through that because what? So we received a repayment. Is that the fund? Is that the Legacy Center? Who's prepping these documents? Okay, so we're going to assume that we means the fund. Okay, so the fund received a repayment on a related party loan for another company called Parsons Street, or for 2 Parsons Street properties. Again, is that a company called Parsons Street, or are we talking about 2 individual properties? That's not specified. Okay, fine. Wow. Okay. Such repayment amount included a final draw that was not yet paid and owed to the borrower in the amount of, as I said, $10,835. Now, again, this section is talking about repayment of a loan and saying that there's an amount that's still owed to a borrower. This statement, this whole section here is convoluted. Who is borrowing from who? Who is repaying whom? They're using pronouns like we, they. What is going on here? On May 14, 2021, we settled on the mortgage at what? You guys, this is going to be difficult for me to get through. We settled on the mortgage at 412 Elgin Street in Nashville through PB Investments. The mortgage was repaid in full with a payment to the company. Here we go again. With a sentence that makes no sense. The mortgage was repaid in full with a payment to the company of $248,300. Y'all, I'm really trying here. $248,317. 248,317. Okay. Again with this sentence. Who is we? Who is we? Is that the Tulsa Real Estate Fund? Is that the management company that is managing the Tulsa Real Estate Fund? Who is we? The language "we settled on the mortgage," does that mean the fund closed on the property, meaning purchased the property? It then says through PB investments. Um, excuse me? Excuse me, what is PB investments? Unless we missed it somewhere throughout this section, which again, this is a separate filing. If you're going to refer to these investment companies, they should be detailing. This is where we need detail. You see up here where they gave us all this gobbledygook about the Legacy Center? We didn't need that. Here in this section where they're talking about repayment of loans, this filing should be able to stand on its own. Meaning here, you should be detailing to me how PB Investments is related to TREF. Even if you already told me, fine. If you're saying you already told us somewhere, you should be detailing it in this section again, because this is a new filing. What is PB Investments? Okay, all right. More gobbledygook. The mortgage was then repaid. More gobbledygook. On May 14, 2021, the mortgage for 1838 North Miro Street was refinanced and was repaid in full. The payoff on this transaction was $484,764. Okay. All right. Yet again, who refinanced this 1838 North Miro Street? Is this a property that was owned by TREF? It was refinanced how? Through what financial institution? With what capital? There's no information here. I mean, really, I'm just... Let me go back into the chat. Yes, I had to take a deep breath. I was like, I can't even get through this. Like every time I get to a number, I'm just like, let me take a deep breath, because I'm frustrated to read these numbers that we don't have any explanation for. This is really frustrating. What is this? What is that? They're not even explaining where these companies, how these companies are related to TREF. Mortgage from where? Who owns these properties? Refinance through whom? This is absolutely, this is crazy. Deed in lieu of foreclosure. Oh my gosh. On May 13th, 2021, we executed a deed in lieu of foreclosure on the 3 Cincinnati properties through New Beginning Home. What? I'm sorry, y'all. What is New Beginning Home Solutions? Including oh my goodness, y'all know. Including 4520 Kirby Ave, 3136 Durrell Ave, and 1741 Holloway Ave. We paid $5,000 for conditional delivery of the deed. New Beginning Home Solutions again. Let's say Tulsa Real Estate Fund already explained who New Beginning Home Solutions is as an entity in some earlier filing. This filing should be able to stand on its own. So all the gobbledygook they gave us about Legacy Center should be deleted and replaced with explanations about whom these entities and companies are. New Beginning Home Solutions, no explanation there. No explanation there. Mind you, you know what? I was going to take it a step further. Let's just move on. I was going to touch the deed in lieu of let's just move on. Emerging Growth Company. We qualify as an emerging growth company under the Jobs Act. Oh, blah, blah, blah. We're not even going to read that gobbledygook. Results of operations. The following table sets forth key components of our results of operations during the years ending from December 31st, 2021 and 2020. During the years ended? Whatever. Let's move on. Revenue. Okay, so we got some loan origination fees. We have some transaction management fees, some transaction funding fees, some rental income. We have some interest from real estate assets, and we have some training income. Okay, so total revenue for 2020 was a little over 300,000. Total revenue for 2021 was allegedly a little over 500. Interesting. Okay. So from this, revenue did rise from 2020 to 2021. Okay. Operating it. Uh-oh. All right. I see why everyone's talking about this. Okay. Operating expenses. So here it looks like in 2020, the operating expenses were over 2 million, right? 2.2 million and change. And then the operating expenses in 2021 were 2.8 million and some. So that just tells us, just, using our noggin, that the operating expenses exceeded the alleged revenue. Okay. All right, let's see. Other income, loss on joint venture. So that's not income. Interest and dividend income. Okay. There's some funding that was garnered in 2020 that was not garnered again in 2021. Random other expense, loss on forgiveness of debt, and loss on impairment of asset. Okay. Alrighty, so in total, when you talk about other quote unquote income, right? From the year of 2020, other income went from 14,000 to 414,000. So note that there is a difference between this total other income section, right, where you're talking about losses and expenses, as opposed to this section up here when you're discussing revenue. Okay, note that. Now, here's a statement about revenue. We generate revenue from loan origination fees, transaction management fees, transactional funding fees, income from asset sales, rental income, and interest income from real estate assets. Pause. In other words, the Tulsa Real Estate Fund allegedly gets money from lending other entities money, from buying property, from renting property, and from some sort of training. I don't know what that means. Okay. Allegedly, their revenue increased, right? As we saw from 2020 to 2021. Okay. And this is just so crazy. They brought in some rental income. Okay. Here they get into some of their general administrative and marketing expenses. Wow. Okay. So let's look at this sentence. So their general administrative and marketing expenses increased by almost $300,000 or 16% from 2020 to 2021. Okay, they allege that increase was primarily due to increased staffing expenses, which includes vendors, contractors, and outsourced staff, and an increase in advertising expenses and an increase of professional fees. But why? You see, and again, I'm going to say it, all the gobbledygook they gave us in the beginning about the Legacy Center, we don't need that. This should not be one paragraph. Why did these things increase? What was the reason for the increase in expense? Then they talk about depreciation. They recorded depreciation, not monumental. Okay. Now, management fees. Under the operating agreement, we are required to pay the manager a monthly asset management fee, calculated as 5.5% of the total contributions as adjusted from time to time for capital withdrawals, distributions, additional contributions, allocations, and other capital account adjustments. We record this management fee in an annualized manner. Ratably recording this management expense over the course of 12 months. The manager reserves the right to defer collection of any compensation from the time it is earned until sufficient cash is available, without forfeiting any right to collect, although the manager may earn interest on any deferred compensation. Okay, so Jay Morrison, or the manager, can say, I am not taking my compensation now, right? I will wait until the fund is in a better place, if the fund is in a bad place at that time. But he can then ask for interest. We've covered this already in my first video. Okay. Oh, where are we here? For the years ended December 31st, 2021 and 2020, the total amount of management fees incurred, here we go, was a little over $600,000 and a little over $500,000 specifically from 2020 to 2021. The fund went from paying their manager $500,000 to paying a little over $600,000. So, first of all, the original pay was already something. So, they had an increase in expenses. And ironically enough, they also increased how much they paid the manager. Okay. All right. Other income or expense was an expense of, and they go into the expenses, which we already discussed. Let me go into the chat because I need a minute. Oh my gosh. I cannot, you really can't listen. You really can't make this up, Kaya. It hurt to read it. I was like, my eyes, the numbers are just like plopped into random places with no explanation. What? What is going on here? What is going on here? Southern Nappiness said people really didn't read those documents or didn't get financial help. I mean, it's either or, because if you go back to my original video on the fund where I break down all the SEC language and I go through all these documents, if you read that, you would not invest in TREF, quote unquote, invest. Okay. Naf CV said Jay's a reverend now. Oh, no comment. Monthly payment to the manager. Yeah, you got that right. You got that right. And unless we are misinterpreting that, it sounds to be separate from the large chunk of comp that the manager gets. 1.1 million plus interest. I don't know. Where are you getting this number from, Adriana? Rocking with the Truth says, I'm still here, but ran back into the bushes. Girl, I'm barely here. Barely. You guys remember that? I'm barely here. This is so much. Listen, this is just unbelievable. Okay. Net loss. As a result of the cumulative effect of the factors described above. They didn't even describe any factors above, now did they? They gave us 1 to 2 paragraphs at best. Our net loss increased, by 40%. From 2020 to 2021, their net loss increased by 40%. Wow. Wow. I'm speechless. Very, very rarely am I rendered speechless, but I'm speechless. I'm not reading anymore. So I don't know where you stand on this, but I'm not. I'm just not. Okay. I'm going to invite people up if you want to come on back and discuss. Oh, Andriana's talking about payments deferred. I don't quote me on that, because I know he can defer payments, but I wasn't looking to see if he actually deferred any. So everyone is welcome to join me here. It's 7:30. I'm going to give you a few minutes. If you don't decide to join, then I'm going to go ahead and head out. Maybe have some dinner. I want to cook some chicken. I initially was going to fry the chicken, but then I said, no, do better. be better. And so I'm going to air fry the chicken, right? I'm going to air fry it. I am going to be better. So I'm going to give you all a few minutes. And if no one comes backstage, then I'm just going to head on out and air fry my chicken. But I don't know what else to say about the Tulsa Real Estate Fund that I have not already said. Again, go back to the original video I did on the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. As a matter of fact, let me look that up and get the link for you again, because in that video, I detail. Oh, here I go. Okay. In that video, I detail. You guys probably didn't even hear the mess that I heard. I was hearing some audio of myself. I detail the operating documents of the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, the initial documents they filed with the SEC to become a public offering, and why anyone reading those documents would probably, once informed, choose not to quote unquote invest or give or be a member of the fund. So, am I surprised by this new filing? No. It was said years ago that the Tulsa Real Estate Fund was not built, created, nor incorporated sustainably. The way that it was being described and the documents that had been produced were not professionally prepared and did not describe a quote unquote fund that could actually be viable. So now, a few years later, here we are. I'm not at all surprised. And Driana says she air fries as well. She said, if I don't air fry, I cook in olive oil, typically boneless. Yeah. I have some wings, which is why I was going to fry them, but I'm going to air fry them. I'm just going to season them up. And I have a little trick, because my one thing about air frying the chicken is sometimes it looks pale. So I went online and I discovered a little trick to making the chicken wings not look so pale when you air fry them, which is to include in your seasonings paprika and something called browning sauce. It's usually used in Caribbean cooking, like to make brown stew chicken and stuff like that. But you put a little bit of that on there and it'll give the chicken some color and it won't look so pale when you air fry it. So I think I'm going to air fry. Is Naps still here? Tristan Townsend has a question for you, Naps. He wants to know, what are you going live again? All right, y'all, listen. You guys got, yeah, Andrea said paprika. Yes, paprika and that browning sauce, and then your chicken will actually have some color. It won't be all pale in the air fry. I cannot stand pale chicken. It just, it doesn't do it for me. Let me copy this again. All right. So you're welcome to come up. You can still come up to discuss Carlee Russell if you want. I'm still open to that. That's still fine. That's still on the table. So you can come back to discuss either Carlee Russell or Jay Morrison. All right. Tyrus Thomas says most people who read those documents still wouldn't understand what they are getting into. Some of us were young and new to investing at the time. Plus, he pulled our heartstrings with the Tulsa talk. Okay. So that is something that I said. I said, either they didn't read it or they did not understand it, which, hey, the lesson learned here is you need to read these documents and you need to understand them before you give your funding. So if you don't understand what you're reading, find someone who does. All right, get some assistance, get some advice there. And Nap says he's out of jail, YouTube jail, y'all, not not jail. And so he will be live sometime this week. Yuakata, I found the time to get on here, but the time to break this up is going to be a no. But here's what and I say that with love, but here's what I will say though. If any of you know someone who is either a content creator or who is interested in content creating and they would like to donate their time to my channel, because listen, donations don't have to be financial, right? And I really don't ever really ask for financial donations. So if anyone knows what they're doing and would love to donate their time to the channel, I'm cool with that. And you're free to break up the lives, send them to me for upload, make intros, all that stuff. You're free to volunteer. Email me. Let me put my email in the chat. You're free to email me and volunteer your time. Okay. Alrighty, so listen, there's no one backstage. So I'm guessing that means you all want me to end the live, which means I shouldn't be getting any emails or messages or comments, you know, because y'all are here now. The only comments we should see is like, that was great, loved it. Oh, all right, I hope so. Um, so Yuakata says, okay, cool, I understand. And if you do so happen to catch this on the replay, that of course does not apply to you. And I would love to hear from you in regards to your thoughts on Carlee Russell and the case unfolding surrounding her alleged kidnapping, as well as your thoughts surrounding Tulsa Real Estate Fund. Alrighty. So listen, I'm gonna get on out of here. This has been another installment of Empowered Esquire TV. We went a bit uncut, like a bit off the we went a bit off the beaten path towards the end, which tends to happen when I haven't had another cup of coffee and I'm hungry. But we're going to say that that's okay. We're going to say that we're cool enough that it's all right. And we're going to hope that, you know, all's well that ends well. I hope you feel empowered by, oh, Naps is here. All righty, let's bring him on. We went a bit on. Naps, turn your stuff down, please, and
sorry.
Speak your.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, I just want to say this before you leave, and what's up to the chat and everybody. This message is to Mr. Boyce Watkins, all right, who pushed this and who really, I'm talking about, you know, the TREF debacle. But this man who is this doctor of finance, we can't take that away from him, but he pushed this very hard and he had a response. And instead of just fessing up and saying that I was wrong or what have you, he went with the black shaming. What do I mean? Oh, well, y'all, you know, why are you going? It's basically, if you know Mr. Watkins, he's very passive aggressive, right? So he went with the, y'all don't go after white people like this, all right? You're going to go after him, blah, 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 which is untrue, by the way, because, you know, people do go after other groups. But the problem is, and why this hurts so much, or it's, I shouldn't say hurt because my feelings aren't hurt. I'm just, you know, kind of disgusted. It bothers you more when it comes from somebody who you're supposedly, who is black like you. Let me say it like that. All right. Because you come in leading with the this idea that you have sincere intentions. Why did people donate to the TREF fund? It was less about making money or less about understanding the paperwork. And it was more about helping a brother. And if you notice when he was doing this, he really laid that language on thick. While I was speaking to Baba, I was talking to the elders. And actually, that talk is what turned me off. But he really started black shaming black people, saying, if you don't get with this, why are you taking out a brother? This is why people are upset. But to Boyce Watkins, let me just say, because he likes to hide behind his doctorate and he tries to act like, you know, I'm smarter than you. Understand something. Even though you're a doctor, you can still, your name can still be made mud if you keep on getting behind these, pushing these, you know, scam artists. And eventually people are going to look at you like they look at the high school dropouts that you push. So I just want to say with him, all right, and I don't know if you heard his video or what have you, the response was just pretty pathetic. And it really, you know, insulted a lot of our intelligence when he responds that way.
Well, I don't know much about Boyce Watkins' response to this. I haven't, now mind you, I've seen everyone talking about it. I just haven't gotten to watch it yet. But I'm not surprised. Similar to how I'm not surprised to see this gobbledygook SEC filing. I've never been more frustrated reading an SEC filing. I've never read anything like that. That was a mess. So similar to how I'm not surprised to have read that, I'm not surprised to hear that he tried to allegedly shame people or explain away, as opposed to just saying, and you know what people don't get is it's okay to be human. And I think social media makes it hard, for people to be human. And so I do sympathize with that and empathize with that to a certain extent, but it's okay to say, I made a mistake. I mean, I think it would have been totally fine for him to say, listen, I thought this was legitimate. I now realize that it was not, but we don't live in that kind of climate. We live in I did something wrong and I am going to just ride it out to the death of it. And I'm not sure where that came from.
Yeah, so I did want to just mention that because, the response that he gave was, and I've been, like I can like tell you a number of reasons why he has discussed me. I know where it all started. I'm not going to get into it because I know you're going to go, but understand that because he loves to hide behind his doctorate, well, like he's this authority. And he has really led a lot of Black people into a bunch of scams. And good for JT for calling out his own financial indiscretions, which nobody's saying that, people can, you can have a bad time. I get that. But this guy continues to push these scams. And, and also that's another thing. He also called out JT personally and said, oh, you don't go after white people, blah, 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 and all that. So that is what I can't stand, the Black shaming. Okay, he does it. All these other guys do it. And that's really what I wanted to say about him. So if anybody here in the chat, go listen to it. If you want to really get upset and flame his comment section, I'm guessing he's going to turn it off. So, that's really what I want to say. And regarding Jay, by the way, quickly, the town that I mentioned, that the town that was for sale is called, I think, Toonsboro in Georgia. That town was for sale. It's about an hour or 2 hours away from Atlanta. And he said he approached the owners to buy it. The thing is that place was never, it was not the town that was for sale. It was a bunch of properties. And the mayor had cleared it up that the town was never for sale. But Jay just said it just to make it sound good. And I doubt he even went there. Because if you know Jay Morrison, he likes the photo op. So you would have seen camera and crew and everything down there. So it's the lies that bother me. He just likes to lie a lot. And the fact that he's starting a TREF 2 while losing money every single year, 1 million, 2 million, the chutzpah of it all. So yeah, I think that there's going to be a part 3 that you're going to go over before this is done. And who knows where this is going to lead to.
Well, I want to say, because I've heard this quite a bit, and it makes me really worried for the state of mind of some people. When people say things like, white people don't do this to each other, or white people don't, that is such a either ignorance or such a blatant lie. Okay.
Right.
First, when they say white people don't make videos criticizing, heck yes, they do. I could name off the top of my head 3 channels built by a white person criticizing another white person.
Yes.
Okay. One of them I actually am kind of sort of obsessed with. It's a Scientology channel.
Yeah.
As you all know, Scientology is mostly Caucasian people. The channel is ran by Caucasian people, and they are constantly criticizing other Caucasian people.
Yes.
It happens all the time. Okay.
Yes.
Then this idea that Caucasian people do not criticize each other's financial decisions or investments or public offerings. Again, yet another lie, either out of ignorance or just lying, right? Mm-hmm. Again, we could name several financial channels that go in on a lot of these major quote unquote funds and investment bankers who are Caucasian, and the channel is built by a Caucasian person.
Right. Yeah.
So,
listen, CNN versus Fox. CNN and Fox. I mean, to the Turks and the Young Turks and you name the conservative channel. This is nonsense. We never just that you said that. Let me say this regarding Carlee. Papa had an opinion on it, and by the way, I feel that she should go to jail. That's my opinion. I mean, I think people are saying that she messed up, but you know what? What she did, there are other Black women out there that were really getting violated. That she took the police could have been using that to help them. So I do think that she should be punished. But Papa, who's and you know I'm talking about Mr. Johnson, he spoke on this and he said that if we think she should get arrested, then I don't like that. I don't think that she should be punished. She should simply apologize, which shows you that this dude who's talking about opening up a school for boys and disciplining them, what kind of discipline are you talking about? He's done this more than once, by the way. All right. Do I want her to go to the penitentiary and do hard time for 10 years? No. But I do think she should be punished. But this guy's like, no punishment. I don't want her going to the white system. I mean, she messed with a lot of people's emotions here. Right. And so the same way Jesse, I mean, his name is Juicy or whatever. The same way he went to prison, she should go to prison. All right. And he had way more connections than she did. So with that right there, the way she played with our emotions, absolutely. So yeah, a lot of us, people like that, we push in front of us and they don't take any accountability. None.
Well, thank you for your insight on that, Naps. As I said, I'm going to try to, I want a little bit more. So I'm going to try to stay impartial or neutral on that.
Yeah. Okay.
But I have presented, what could happen. And as I've said, if her counsel tries to argue mental health, they're going to have challenges there because the tweets and the internet searches look like a person that was mentally competent. It doesn't translate like a person that was having any sort of mental break.
Sure. And listen, I'll go. Thanks again. And let me just say this. You'll never go wrong with jerking the chicken. So do that. All right.
Oh, yeah. I know how to make jerk chicken in the, you know what? If I know how to make it in the oven, air frying it, maybe the same difference. I might try that.
Yeah, man. Try that, man. But thanks for having me up. Peace to the chat. Until next time. And I'm out of jail, y'all. Peace.
All right. Let's meet. I hope you do catch this entire live on replay. I hope you're well. All righty. So listen, I'm out. I'm going to go make my chicken. If no one has told you today, or rather this week, right? This month, whatever, that you are loved, I love you. You bring something unique to this world, to my life, to this channel, and I absolutely love and appreciate you for it. All right. So I hope you've been empowered by this information today. Let me know in the comments what you think about the Carlee Russell case, about the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. Also, drop any questions you have in the comments for all my replay gang, right? The people who were here, I'm sure you already did your thing. And that's all I got. Bye, y'all.